Yeah, our panelists here, Paul Mauro, Josh Ritter, Donna Rotano, and Andy McCarthy and Nicole Parker. Paul, I want to get to you first. You're sitting here on set with me in New York. Your reaction to the charges, I heard you say that's new. As we are working our way through aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice, disposing of the clothing, charge 4, charge 5, witness tampering, when the accused assassin asked his roommate to delete the account, and also the witness tampering where he asked for him to remain silent.
Right, so that's new. We'd actually heard a lot of that that was in that press conference when I was out in Utah. That's the equivalent of a speaking indictment where the prosecutor puts a lot of information into the indictment. In this case, it's an information. He didn't want to go outside the four corners of that information, but he laid out a lot of his case. He got a lot of it out there, created that narrative, created the picture of what's going on. The reason I reacted to the witness tampering and the destruction of evidence thing is because he's being charged with that, but that was the main perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, directing his roommate to do it. Now, the question becomes, did the roommate do it? The roommate apparently did not provide the original note. If you caught it, they said the cops have a photograph of the original note, right? So maybe that person, the trans roommate, destroyed the original note. My point is this: they might have some leverage over the roommate, but they don't want to charge the roommate because the roommate right now is a really valuable investigatory vector. Lastly, and let me just close with this. I know we have other guests. I've been saying since the beginning that this thing screams to be a state case. I think that this prosecutor laid out why. You've got the aggravated murder because it ticks the box of putting others in danger aside from the shooter and the perpetrator. It really seems to be quite within the contours of a state homicide, a capital murder case. For the feds, in my opinion, the best move here, I know this is the subject of a lot of debate, the best move is for them to participate in the investigation, do everything that they can, don't file, because that way you don't have a speedy trial thing if the feds ever want to bring their case. Wait, let the state case go. You'll learn a lot from the state case. As long as you're within the statute of limitations, you can always bring your federal case later. Gives you another bite at the apple. I think that's how this is going.
All right, let's bring in Donna Rotano to get her take on all of this. What do you make of this lengthy text exchange where, according to the state, Tyler Robinson confesses to this crime? We've also heard similar confession on Discord, as well as the victim targeting enhancement, because Charlie Kirk was targeted because of his political views, and then this idea of aggravating factors of a violent offense committed in front of children. Can you speak to all of that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think the prosecutor did a great job out there. I think he highlighted everything he needed to. I think it was a fabulous summary. He gave us a lot of information. I think the text messages are very clear in terms of a confession, and I agree with Paul that keeping this roommate/lover really as an ally to law enforcement will be most helpful because they really will have more leverage. In terms of the charges themselves, I am happy, I'm glad to see that they are moving forward on charges involving exactly what happened out there, the number of people who were in danger, the fact that Charlie was targeted for his views and his beliefs. I think these charges are a very, very fair assessment about what actually took place out there, and I think they're going to be very successful. There's good evidence here so far, and I know that there's more to come.
Andy, and now we know he faces the death penalty. As these charges were just announced, notice of intent to seek the death penalty. We just heard from the district attorney.
Yeah, well, one of the things I'd be concerned about with respect to that, as I was listening to the narrative, and I agree with what's been said about how thorough and comprehensive it was, it seems like the parents are very important witnesses. In my experience, juries don't like it when parents have to testify against defendants or when prosecutors ask them to do that. And I can only think of that being exacerbated in a case where the testimony could lead to the death penalty. So I was happy to see that there was so much evidence arising out of the text message with the roommate, because maybe that will obviate the need to have the parents' testimony. And beyond that, I quite agree with Paul that this is a state case. It's the most straightforward way to do it.
Yeah. Hey, we've just got a little more than 4 minutes left in the show. I wanted to get to Nicole and Josh. And Nicole, let's start with you. In this text message exchange, Tyler Robinson allegedly says, if I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. I mean, to the contrary, this guy seems to have left a mountain of evidence.
I mean, his DNA is all over the trigger and the casings as well, used and unused. But what I think is really interesting, I've always wondered, how long did he plan for this? And based on what I heard in that press conference, he had been planning this for about a week, according to what he said. And also his whole mind process. John, he was right there in the vicinity of the crime that he had just committed, waiting for the cops to leave. He's like, gosh, I really want to go back and get that rifle, but I'm not sure that I can. There's an officer right there. I wonder at what point he said, you know what, forget it. I've got to leave. I got to go back to St. George, and I'm just going to have to leave the evidence behind. And I think it's very alarming. Again, I like to look at this rifle and the weapon selection. This was given to him by his father. From what I understand, it was his grandfather's.
Yeah.
And he wanted to, his father's like, look, send me a picture of it. I want a picture of this weapon. And he said, oh, they won't be able to trace the weapon back to me if they do a trace. It'll go back to my grandfather or something of that sort. But I think this is very, very compelling evidence. The evidence is mounting, and let me tell you, the investigation is just beginning. This is just what they have for the probable cause affidavit for the information. This is not even the whole case. I am so glad to hear that they are officially going for the death penalty.
Josh, I'll finish with you. We've got a few minutes left here. This is the moment the district attorney, Josh, described Robinson in the weeks leading up to this and how he had started to lean more to the left. Listen here.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views.
Josh, what did you take away from that?
I thought one of the things that stood out to me most of all was how suspicious his own parents were of him. They confronted him at first saying, hey, where were you? And he said, I'm sick. And that's not enough to stop the parents. They still feel like that he could have been involved. And I think it was, one, the pictures that we've seen, but two, these political leanings that they thought he had started to develop inside of him. I'll tell you another thing that I thought was remarkable is what the prosecutor did not mention, and that was any kind of allegations of conspiracy. We talked a lot about conversations that he had with his roommate since the time of the shooting, but there was very little information shared about the planning and who was involved or who knew about the planning leading up to the murder. And there's no conspiracy charges here. So it's interesting if they believe that he acted alone and informed no one else of his plans.
Well, I mean, you look at everything that was laid out here, and the case would seem to be almost open and shut. But of course, in a court of law, you've got to prove all of this beyond a reasonable doubt to the jury, though it does look like Utah County has got such a tremendous amount of evidence. And with the death penalty on the table, you have to wonder whether or not this individual is going to risk going to trial and have the death sentence pronounced against him, or if, like Brian Kohberger, he might just try to plead out for a lesser sentence. Folks, thanks for joining us all. We'll continue to watch this, obviously, going forward. Sandra.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.